So do you ever feel like your emotions run the show, that they just push you back and forth and that you're at their mercy? If this sounds familiar to you, then today's episode is for you. All right, welcome back to Walk Through Open Doors. We're going to try a new format starting today. I've had a newsletter for years now, I think since like 2014. But the thing that I'm noticing is that people just don't read as much as they used to. I think to some extent AI has kind of taken over that space. And so I've turned my attention more to video and to YouTube and things like that. But one thing I always enjoyed about the newsletter and that I got good feedback on was that we had this like template, or we had like a flow that we stuck with each time. And what we would talk about it was called the walkthrough. Walk through open doors. It's all tied to the brand. But it would talk about the room that you're in, the room you want to be on, the locked door, and the key. And so the room that you're in is the problem that you're having right now, whatever it is you're struggling with. The room you want to be in is where you want to go. The locked door is what's keeping you from getting there. Like what behavior are you engaging? What are you doing or not doing that's keeping you in the room you don't want to be in? And then the key is, how do you get there? And then we'd always wrap it up with the mirror, which were things like, look in the mirror and ask yourself some questions about what do I need to do different. So we're going to give that a try here on the podcast. I'm curious to see how it works, but I think it'll give us some more structure and just a more clear direction on how we're doing this in a way that I think will be beneficial to people. So here's the room you're in. Your emotions run the show. They push you back and forth. They sway what you do. They sway what you don't do. They show up and wreck your plans all the time. And you're in this constant just flow or chaos of not being able to get what you need to get done because you don't feel like it. You're anxious, or you're depressed, or all these different things just come in and they mess it up and they keep you from doing it. And this is the room that a lot of people are in. I think that our modern world is so, I don't know. I mean, I'm not willing to say it's an all-out bad thing. I think it's good that we acknowledge our emotions. I think it's good that we pay attention to them. I think it's good that we don't suppress them and just try to shut them down. But it's also put a lot of us in a place where we can't really get the things done that we need to get done because of our attachment to our emotions. We're so obsessed with the way that we feel that we can't actually get things done in that. And it's just like, I don't know. I know so many people who they have big plans, they have these things they want to do, but their emotions and their thoughts about things constantly show up and wreck it for them. It keeps them from doing it all the time. If that's the room that so many of us are in. It's the reason I had a job as a therapist for so long. It's the reason I have a job as a coach with a lot of people, is that we have these plans, we have these things we want to do, we have these big ideas, we have this thing that we know we're put here to do something more, but we just can't get ourselves to do it. I see this in my own life. I don't see it in my own life as much as I used to. My emotions can get a hold of me every once in a while, but in general, they really don't. I see this in the lives of so many other people, though. And the problem with it is that when we are super attached to our emotions, when we are super engaged with them all the time, we are constantly at their mercy. And what you'll find is that people are often doing things in order to deal with their emotions. They're not doing it intentionally, and so they're making a lot of unhealthy choices. So that's the room you're in. Now let's talk about the room you want to be in. I think we all want to be in this room. We all want to be in a room where we are in charge of our emotions, or at the very least, they're not coming in and ruining all our plans. We want to be people who can have hard things show up: depression, anxiety, fear, worry, all those different things, jealousy, envy, all the things that make it hard to be a human. We want to be in a room where those things can show up and we can still live our lives. I want to be clear about the room you don't want to be in. You do not want to be in a room where you don't have emotions. You don't want to be in a room where you're just flat or indifferent. That's why I started meditating years ago. I wanted to be in a room where I wanted to be a person who did not have emotions. I was so tired of my emotions ruining my life. I drank because I was constantly trying to deal with my emotions. I used drugs because I was trying to deal with my emotions. I lived in chaos because my response to my emotions was so unhealthy and so unhelpful that I was in this constant state of just overwhelm and not being able to do what I needed to do. Now, unfortunately, or actually, I would say fortunately, if I'm honest, what I didn't know about meditation was that it does not make you immune to your emotions. It does not make them go away. It actually gets you really closely in touch with your emotions. It brings them so close to you that you kind of have to learn to lean in and get used to them and acclimate to them so that they don't knock you to and fro. So the room you want to be in is not one of numbness and not caring. It's a place of what I would call equanimity toward your emotions, of being able to watch something arise, notice what it is, and let it come and go. If it wants to stay a while, it gets to stay a while. If it wants to leave, it gets to leave. We can get to that place, and it can change our lives where you can be, let's say that you're about to go do something. Let's say there's something that you've been excited to go do, and right before you leave, anxiety arises. And you think like, oh gosh, I don't know if I want to go do this. What if I don't know anybody there? What if I don't even know where to park? What if I get there and make an idiot of myself? And the thing that I see is that a lot of people, because of this world we live in now, where we're told that every emotion we have is valid, every single thing you think, and everything is just, it's you stand in your truth and live your truth, and all of this is so real, and your emotions are valid, and you've got to invest in every single one of them. Because of that pops up, and we don't follow through on what we said we were going to do. We don't show up to the thing we need to show up to. We put it off, and we've got these like quote unquote valid reasons to not do it, of saying, oh, I was just anxious and I couldn't make it, or I was just feeling down and couldn't make it. And I don't know, it's weird. It's like we're not supposed to question that. Like if a person cites anxiety or sadness or something, we're not supposed to say, well, you could have showed up anyway. And I want to understand, like I don't struggle with this mentality in people because I'm judgmental of them, or because I think that, bootstraps and be tough. It's because I see it limit so many people in what they want to do. I see it really I've seen it cripple an entire generation of people who could be doing a lot more than they're doing, because they have been told that every emotion is valid, every thought they have is valid, and that you need to follow them out and give them space and let them just run the show. Now, I want to be clear. Your emotions are valid in the sense that you are experiencing them. Your emotions are valid in the sense that it's part of your experience as a human. They are not necessarily valid in that they are giving you good information about reality. They're not necessarily valid in the sense that you need to make decisions because of them. And that is what really causes people a lot of trouble, is that I want to be clear. You cannot suppress your emotions. You can't stuff them down and just beat them into submission. That will cause you as much trouble as anything else. It caused me a lot of trouble. I think that me refusing to acknowledge my emotions and just cram them down and just shut up in there, don't say a word. That manifested in other unhealthy ways that caused me trouble over the years. But there's a middle ground here. It's not, don't let your mind create a false dichotomy of letting your emotions run the show or stuffing them down and not letting them have a say. Your emotions are there. You're going to experience them, and that's a good thing. It's part of being human. It's part of what makes us what we are. But you have to be able to look at them and say, okay, I'm feeling this way, but I'm not going to let them tell me what to do. And that right there, that's the locked door that is keeping you out of the room you want to be in. The locked door is the idea that my emotions are valid. I'm going to let every one of them dictate what I do. And so you stay in that room. You stay trapped in the room of your emotions running the show. I don't know. This is a hard one to address because I want to be kind and I want to be compassionate and I want to be aware of the old narrative, the narrative I grew up with as a man that said, you don't cry, you don't even really laugh too much, you don't let your emotions get too far out of control in any capacity, because that's not what men do and that's not who you want to be. I want to be mindful of that narrative and trust me, I am mindful of it. I know I grew up with it. I absolutely grew up with that narrative. But the thing is that I don't know that is causing people as much trouble anymore as this narrative that you have to let every emotion have its say and let it air it out and talk it out and let it make decisions for you. That is the thing I see that keeps so many people from doing the cool things they want to do. I see that over and over and over again. That right there, the idea that every emotion you have is valid, every emotion you have needs to be spoken and needs to have a say. That's the locked door. That is what's keeping you out of the room of having equanimity towards your emotions. That's what's keeping you out of the room of having a sense of peace, of being able to do hard things even though you don't want to do them. And that right there is what you need to push back against. That right there is what has to be addressed if you really do want to do the big things, because all the big things in the world are scary and difficult, and you have to understand that if you're going to do them, you're going to have difficult emotions arise. So we've got the room you're in. Your emotions run the show. They keep you from doing things that you want to do or that you know you should be doing. The room you want to be in is where you have a different relationship with your emotions, where they don't push and pull you and just sway you all over the place. But the locked door is that idea that you have to pay a lot of attention to your emotions and that you have to see them all as valid and that they have to have a say. So the key to that locked door, and I want to be really careful in how I say this, I want to be mindful of the fact that, and I want you to be mindful as you hear this, that we are not talking about your suppressing your emotions. We're not talking about like acting like they don't exist. But I am going to tell you that you're allowed to be a little bit indifferent to your emotions. You are allowed to look at the things you're feeling inside and say, okay, cool. I see you. You're allowed to ride with me, but you don't get to drive the car. You're allowed to have a say, but you don't get to dictate what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. And I mean, I can tell you from experience, being a little bit indifferent to my emotions is what changed everything for me. When I learned that, oh, I can be anxious, and that doesn't mean that something's about to go wrong and I can still do this scary thing. That's what allowed me to start like speaking in public, doing public speaking and getting to go out there and build my business through that. It's what allowed me to put myself out there with the newsletter I mentioned, with a blog. It's what allowed me to do this. I've said it before, but like talking to a camera and putting this up on YouTube for strangers that I don't know to comment on and to have an opinion on, dude, that's not easy for me. I'm 47 years old. I didn't get on the internet till my mid-20s. I am not accustomed to this world where you have so many eyes on you and all these eyes have an opinion, and I can't address that opinion with people. Like, that's just not the world I come from. So this is uncomfortable for me. I feel anxiety every single time I record. I feel anxiety every single time I post a video. I feel anxiety every single time I log onto YouTube and see the little alert button and the little bell up there, because it's like, oh shit, what's somebody got to say. 90% of the comments are positive, or at least like, seeking real discussion, but it's just, that's hard for me. I'm not cut out for that. I never saw myself doing this, but I have these years of helping people and I have this knowledge that I've been so privileged to acquire, and I want to share that with people. So I can look at the anxiety and say, hey, you're here, but we're going to do this anxious. We're going to do this scared, and we're going to keep doing this as long as it's useful for people. Man, the last 2 or 3 months, I have been super depressed. I've been just so down. The world has felt pretty dark. The world's felt pretty bleak. And that tells you a story. Like if you deal with depression, depression tells you this story about the world and about other people and about your future and about it makes it feel like there's no hope, things like that. And I'm telling you, nothing has changed in my day-to-day routine. I still work out. I still do the things I need to do. I still reach out to the people that need me to reach out to them. I'm still dependable for the people who depend on me. And the only reason I'm able to do that is because I'm a little bit indifferent to being depressed. I've been hypothyroid, which is like, no energy at all. I mean, it's like dragging myself through the day. And I was talking to my doctor about it, and he's like, well, have you been? Well, I've been depressed. And okay, and how's the thyroid? Oh, I'm hypothyroid. And he said, well, how are you dealing with just the depression and the lack of energy? And the best I could think to tell him was like, well, I'm fine because I don't care. Like those things have nothing to do with what I need to do today. I have bills to pay. I have people who depend on me. I have worked hard to do these videos. I've worked hard to build my coaching practice. And I'm at a place where all of that is paying off. And I'm not going to let something like depression, something like hypothyroid, something like anxiety, I'm not going to let that come in and take that from me. But I'm only able to do that because I've learned to be a little bit indifferent to how I feel about things. Because at the end of the day, when it all comes down to it, like reality doesn't super care how we feel. If you've run out of food and you need to go to the store, but you're too tired to go to the store, you're anxious, like your pantry's not going to magically fill up with food just because you don't feel like doing it. Like it is indifferent to how we feel about things. Not wanting to do something does not mean we don't need to do it. And where this really matters is on the big things that we want to do. Like if you've worked towards something, what I find is like right when you're on the verge of finally pushing through and finding success, you get pushed, you get like a lot of pushback and a lot of resistance. I don't know if it's from the universe. I don't know how it works, but I see it all the time, to the point where like when I feel a lot of resistance, I kind of automatically start thinking like, okay, cool. I'm about to hit the next level. It's almost like a boss fight on a video game, you know? But I don't always want to push through that. I don't always want to try like do the work of making myself do what I need to do. But I am indifferent to the fact that I don't want to. I am indifferent to the fact that I don't feel like it. I'm indifferent to being depressed right now. I'm indifferent to having no energy. Now, this is where I want to be so careful. I don't suppress these things and act like they're not there. Like, I'm not going out looking for things to do, to push through. I mean, you don't need to do that. Life will bring you things to push through, I promise. You don't ever need to seek out hardship. But like this morning I wake up, it was 21 degrees. My day is pretty booked today, so I knew if I was going to work out, I needed to go out and do it. I didn't want to go out at 21 degrees, but I did it anyway because this is good for me. This helps me. This is the only time I've got to do it today. So how I feel about it is irrelevant. What I want to be careful with is to say, don't stuff things down. Like if I need to take a day off, I'll take a day off. If I'm sick, I will rest. If I can do something on a different day when I'm feeling better, I'll do it. You don't go out of your way to look for hard things, but that's not the thing I'm seeing people do. The thing that I see people do is not do the things they need to do because of the way they're feeling in the moment. You are allowed to be a little bit indifferent to how you're feeling when you need to get things done. This is not suppressing and acting like it's not there. But there are times that we have to say, I feel really depressed. I feel really anxious. I feel really sad. I feel really angry. Whatever you're feeling, we have to be able to look at that sometimes and say, okay, cool, but I'm going to go do this anyway. I've got this thing that needs to get done. I've got people that depend on me. I need to depend on me, and I'm going to go do this no matter how I'm feeling in this moment. And the more that you do that, the easier it becomes. And the really cool thing is that you hit this point where you realize like, oh, these little feelings that keep popping up, these little vague notions inside of me, these energies, aren't that important all the time. They aren't that important all the time. Now, I'm an advocate for therapy and for having intentional conversations and things like that. Like we have like deeper things we need to work on. We have these deeper feelings we have to deal with sometimes. But reality doesn't care that we're going through them. Reality still has an expectation of us, and we have to learn to have an expectation of ourselves if we are going to push through and do the things and just live a life that we want to live. Like I will guarantee you, if you look back at some of the things you failed to do, it's probably emotional that kept you from doing them. Like these things arose inside of you and you said, I don't like the way that feels, so I'm not going to do this. Sometimes I do that. There's things I don't do because it's not worth it. But what I see people do is sacrifice the things that are worth it and then like be sad about that or complain about that when really it was their investment in their emotions and it was their investment into how they were feeling that kept them from doing that. So I'm telling you, the key to getting out of that room where your emotions run the show is to start being just a little bit indifferent to them, to looking at them, to being able to look at them and say, okay, you're here, cool. You don't get to tell me what to do. You don't get to dictate things. So now it's time to look in the mirror and ask yourself what you need to do to bring this into your life. And I would encourage you to ask yourself this week, like when you know you need to do something and you don't want to, and you allow yourself to start thinking about not doing it, just take a moment and say, do I really have to care how I feel about this? Do I really have to care that I'm anxious about it? Do I really have to care that I'm sad about it, that I'm angry about it? Ask yourself, like, what would happen if I was indifferent to this feeling that I'm having and I went ahead and did this anyway? And if you can, then do that. Push through it and go do the thing no matter how you're feeling and see what happens. Stick to your plan. Do what you need to do regardless of how you're feeling and see what happens. But it all starts with looking in the mirror and saying, okay, I let my emotions run the show sometimes. I'm going to choose to be indifferent to some of the softer emotions. Start easy. Start easy. Start with the small anxiety, the small fear, the small worry, the small anger, and just see what happens if you're indifferent to it. See what happens if you look at it and you say, okay, you're here, but you're not the boss. I'm the boss and I'm going to go do what I need to do. Try that a few times this week and see what happens. I guarantee it will allow you to start taking advantage of things and seizing opportunities that you weren't able to before. And as you practice being a little indifferent to the feelings, to all the little things going on inside of us, as you practice being indifferent to them, it gets easier and easier. And that makes life so much more bearable, and you will get to do so many more things that you've always wanted to do.